Welcome back, everyone. We are diving into our last week of looking at Dale Carnegie's book, How to Win Friends and Influence People. If you haven't already got a copy of this in your library, we'll put a link in the show notes. Make sure you grab one. You need to have it. It's been so fun kind of going through it this month, diving into it from a totally different perspective for me, because trying to pull out concepts that I can share with you. And there's just these timeless principles that enable us to connect better with people. And it's something I think that we're all probably aspiring to do and working on. Some of the mediums of how we communicate have definitely changed. Has anybody spent any time on Zoom over the last couple of years? But our ability to connect with people, those are solid principles that Dale talks about in this book, and they're timeless. So this week, as I was preparing to share with you, I'm reading through, and there's a chapter called You Can't Win an Argument. What do you mean you can't win an argument? If there's an argument, there's traditionally like a winner or a loser. But Dale's point, and he points it out really well, that when you have an argument, no one wins. You might prove yourself correct in the facts, but you're actually not building any relationship. And Dale tells this great story about being at a dinner party. Remember what dinner parties are? I mean, we haven't done that in a couple of years, but he's at a dinner party and he's sitting beside this guest, and the gentleman is sharing a story, and it's a humorous story, and he's entertaining the room. And inside the story, he says a quote which he attributes to being from the Bible. But Dale knows that that quote is not from the Bible, and it's actually from Shakespeare. And Dale's young at the time and feels the need to correct the gentleman, even though it wasn't really his place or the point, and ends up getting into an argument with him. And even though Dale was correct, all it did was end up degrading the relationship. It ended up making the gentleman who was telling the story look like a fool. And you have to look at the situation and go, okay, do I need to be right, like factually right in this situation, in this context? Or can I actually just allow grace and allow the relationship to grow? And, does it really matter if I'm constantly sitting there and correcting and pointing out errors? It generally doesn't. I think that this is an incredibly timely concept to bring up right now, because I think we're living in a cultural moment where I don't know if we've ever been more divided. There's promotion of these fears and ideas and, politics. If you don't believe this, then you got to believe that. And I think what's really breaking my heart is that I'm hearing these stories about how these issues and topics, it's tearing families apart. There's definitely been many things over my 40 years of life where I look back and I go, well, I've made a lot of mistakes. I've definitely been wrong before, where I've looked at something and thought it has to be this way. There's a couple things that are constant, but a lot of things change. A lot of what we know about the world, about science, about medicine, all these things sort of evolve over time as we continue to learn and to grow. 2 years, 10 years, 20 years down the road, we're going to look back at some of these issues and it's going to be like, well, some of the issues don't even exist anymore. But did we destroy relationships because we were so focused on issues that we had to prove that we were right? The important parts of our life are going to be the relationships. It's not going to be the politics that you absolutely had to be correct on. And we talked about this in the last video as well, but when you find yourself in disagreement with someone, Dale encourages in his book for us to find areas where we do agree. There's so many different areas of life. I guarantee that there's someone that you maybe disagree with on one particular area of life, but you agree about a whole lot of other things. It could be your faith, or it could be raising children, or how you do your finances, or just the way you look at the world, the optimistic way that you look at the world. These are things that we can probably find agreement around and get excited around and build a relationship around, because then maybe we can have a conversation about the things that we do disagree on from a conversational standpoint, not coming at somebody and saying, oh, you're wrong and here's the reason why, because that never really moves us forward. It doesn't actually move the relationship forward. The other practical example that Dale gives us in his book is appealing to someone's nobler motives and giving people a fine reputation to live up to. I really look at it as just like speaking life and speaking positivity over people. I think about it from the concept of, if I'm having a disagreement or if I disagree with someone, if I come to you and I say, hey, you know what, you're wrong and here are the facts, here's why. Immediately when somebody comes to me that way, I put my back up and I become very defensive. But when someone comes to me and they say, hey, Jason, I know you to be a really open-minded person. I know you to be somebody that's always willing to examine the facts and isn't afraid to change their mind or their perspective if they're presented with the correct information that would allow them to do so. When you can speak that over someone, then they have that opportunity to rise up, and we're in partnership together because now we're talking it through. Here's what's brought me to this particular point, and here's what's brought you to this particular point. And I think that that's a powerful conversation because it builds relationships. And when we speak life over people, like when I say over you that I know that God is calling you to do absolutely incredible things. He wants to do incredible things in and through you. You want to be able to live out that in your life. And when we speak that over people, when we give them something to rise up to, I just think it's so incredibly powerful. So much stronger, so much more powerful than trying to prove people wrong. So just to wrap up as we go through this week, just remember, no one wins when you argue. This is an absolutely incredible book. It's encouraged me to focus on my relationships, encouraged me to uplift and encourage other people and to build relationships and to continue to learn to connect with people. So I hope you have an absolutely awesome rest of your day, and I look forward to connecting and sharing with you again next week. We will talk to you soon.